John's mind reeled, the room spinning as fragments of his life flashed before him. The stern lectures on manhood, the family barbecues where he'd boasted about Ezra's football prowess, the quiet pride in raising a son who would follow in his footsteps as a protector of the law. But this was betrayal on a visceral level, a direct assault on everything John had built his identity around. "What the hell is this?" he bellowed, his voice echoing off the walls of their modest suburban home in upstate New York, a place where secrets were supposed to stay buried under layers of normalcy. Ezra stumbled back, his hands trembling as he wiped his mouth, as if that could erase what his father had witnessed. "Dad, I can explain," he stammered, but the words felt hollow even to him. David grabbed his jacket from the couch, muttering apologies under his breath, and bolted for the door, brushing past John without a word. The slam of the front door marked the beginning of the end, leaving father and son alone in the suffocating silence. John's face twisted with a mix of rage and confusion, his fists clenching at his sides. He had faced down criminals, stared into the eyes of killers, but nothing prepared him for this knife to the heart from his own flesh and blood. That night, sleep evaded John like a fugitive. He paced the kitchen, the fluorescent light casting harsh shadows on his weathered face, replaying the scene over and over. His wife, Maria, had passed away 5 years ago from cancer, leaving him to raise Ezra alone. She'd been the soft one, the mediator, and without her, John's world had hardened into rigid lines of right and wrong. Being a cop in a small town meant upholding standards, not just enforcing them. What would the guys at the precinct say? What about the church community that had rallied around them after Maria's death? The thought of whispers behind his back, of pitying glances, made his stomach churn. By morning, John had steeled himself for confrontation. He found Ezra in the living room, curled up on the couch where it had all happened, dark circles under his eyes. "Sit down, son," John said, his tone measured but laced with authority. Ezra complied, avoiding his father's gaze. "How long has this been going on?" John asked, each word a probe into forbidden territory. Ezra hesitated, then met his eyes for the first time. "A year. David and I met at college. It's not a phase, Dad. It's who I am." The admission hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. John felt a surge of anger, but beneath it, a flicker of fear, for Ezra, for their future. "You know what this means," John said quietly. "In this town, people talk. Your grandfather fought in wars to protect our way of life. This isn't it." The argument escalated quickly. Ezra defended himself with a passion John had never seen, speaking of love that transcended gender, of hiding his true self to avoid disappointing his father. "I've been terrified of this moment," Ezra confessed, tears welling. "But I can't pretend anymore. If you love me, you'll accept me." John shook his head, his voice rising. "Love? This is a choice, Ezra. A bad one. Think about what it'll do to us, to me." As the day wore on, John retreated to his study, poring over old family photos. There was Ezra as a boy, grinning with a baseball glove, Maria beaming beside them. How had he missed the signs? Or had he willfully ignored them? Doubt crept in, mingling with his ingrained beliefs. He picked up the phone and called his brother, Mike, a fellow cop in the city, seeking advice. "Kid's gay," John blurted out. Mike paused, then chuckled uneasily. "Tough break, bro. But hey, it's 2026, times are changing. Just don't let it ruin the family name." But John couldn't shake the shame. That evening, he confronted Ezra again, demanding he end things with David. "For your own good," John insisted. Ezra refused, his defiance hardening. "If you force me, I'll leave." The words stung like a slap. John watched his son storm upstairs, the divide between them widening into a chasm. Over the next few days, tension simmered. John threw himself into work, patrolling the streets of Elmwood, a town where everyone knew everyone else's business. Whispers started at the diner, fueled by a neighbor who might have seen David leaving hurriedly. John brushed them off, but inside paranoia grew. He began monitoring Ezra's phone, justifying it as parental concern. What he found: texts filled with affection, plans for a future together, only fueled his resolve to intervene. One night, after a grueling shift involving a domestic dispute that mirrored his own turmoil, John sat Ezra down for an ultimatum. "You choose. This lifestyle or your family." Ezra's eyes flashed with hurt. "It's not a lifestyle, Dad. It's my life." The standoff ended with Ezra packing a bag and leaving for David's apartment in the city, the door closing behind him with finality. John was left alone in the empty house, the silence deafening. Regret gnawed at him, but pride held him back. He poured a drink, staring at Maria's photo on the mantel. "What would you do?" he whispered. The answer eluded him, but the pain was just beginning. Ezra arrived at David's cramped apartment in downtown Rochester, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder, the weight of his decision pressing down like an invisible force. David pulled him into a hug, his arms a temporary refuge from the storm. "You did the right thing," David murmured. But Ezra wasn't so sure. The look on his father's face haunted him. The betrayal, the disappointment. For the first time, Ezra questioned if coming out was worth shattering the only family he had left. David, 21 and studying graphic design, had grown up in a more accepting household. His parents knew about his sexuality and supported him, hosting pride events and marching in parades. "Give your dad time," David advised as they sat on the worn couch, sharing a pizza that tasted like cardboard to Ezra. People change. But Ezra knew his father better. John Harlan was a rock, unyielding, shaped by decades on the force, where vulnerability was a weakness. Back in Elmwood, John wrestled with the void Ezra's absence created. The house felt like a tomb, echoes of laughter long gone. He buried himself in routine. Shifts, gym, beer with the boys. But the questions lingered. At the precinct, Sergeant Ramirez noticed his distraction. "Everything okay at home, Harlan?" she asked during a coffee break. John hesitated, then confided partially. "Kid troubles." She nodded sympathetically. "My nephew came out last year. It was rough at first, but family's family." Her words planted a seed, but John's pride resisted. Instead, he channeled his energy into anger, convincing himself Ezra was influenced by city liberals. He started researching online, falling down rabbit holes of conversion therapy sites and conservative forums that reinforced his views. "It's a phase," he muttered to himself, ignoring the growing ache in his chest. Meanwhile, Ezra tried to adapt to his new reality. College classes resumed, but focus eluded him. He and David grew closer, their relationship a beacon in the chaos, but doubts crept in. "What if he's right?" Ezra confided one night, lying awake beside David. "What if I'm ruining everything?" David turned to him, eyes earnest. "You're not ruining anything. You're being true to yourself. That's what matters." But the strain showed. Ezra's grades slipped, and he withdrew from friends, fearing judgment. One evening, a call from his Uncle Mike shattered the fragile peace. "Your dad's not doing great," Mike said. "Misses you. Come home. Talk it out." Ezra hung up, torn. Part of him yearned for reconciliation, but the ultimatum still burned. John, sensing the impasse, made a desperate move. He drove to Rochester unannounced, parking outside David's building like a stakeout. When Ezra emerged, John approached, his face a mask of forced calm. "We need to talk," he said. Ezra froze, then nodded reluctantly. They walked to a nearby coffee shop, the air thick with unspoken words. Over lukewarm lattes, John laid it out. "I can't accept this, Ezra. It's against everything I believe." Ezra's heart sank. "Then why are you here?" John sighed, vulnerability cracking his facade. "Because you're my son. I don't want to lose you." For a moment, hope flickered, but John continued. "But you have to try to change. There's help out there." Ezra recoiled. "Change? Dad, this isn't something to fix. It's who I am." The argument reignited, voices rising until patrons stared. Ezra stormed out, leaving John alone with his regrets. That night, John confided in Father Ellis at the local church, seeking guidance. God loves all, the priest said gently. But the path is narrow. John left more confused, the moral quandary deepening. As weeks turned to months, the rift affected others. Ezra's childhood friend, Sarah, reached out, concerned. "Your dad's asking about you," she said during a video call. "He's hurting." Ezra brushed it off, but inside, guilt festered. David noticed the change, their relationship straining under the pressure. "You're pulling away," David accused one evening after a tense dinner. Ezra denied it, but the seed of doubt grew. John, meanwhile, faced his own reckoning. During a routine traffic stop, he encountered a young man harassed by bigots for holding his partner's hand. Intervening, John felt a pang of hypocrisy. "Live and let live," he muttered as he drove away, the incident chipping at his resolve. The turning point came at a family gathering. Uncle Mike hosted a barbecue, inviting both. Ezra arrived with David, a bold statement. John tensed upon seeing them, but held his tongue. Whispers circulated among relatives, judgmental eyes on the couple. When cousin Lisa made a snide remark about alternative lifestyles, John surprised everyone by defending Ezra. "Enough," he snapped. "He's family." The moment was fleeting, but it opened a door. Later, in private, John approached Ezra. "I'm trying," he admitted. "It's hard." Ezra nodded, tears in his eyes. "That's all I ask." But the peace was fragile, tested by deeper betrayals lurking ahead. The fragile truce shattered like glass underfoot when John discovered Ezra's secret involvement in a local LGBTQ+ advocacy group. Rifling through Ezra's old room during a cleaning spree, more an excuse to feel connected, he found pamphlets and emails about protests against discriminatory laws. Rage boiled over. This wasn't just personal, it was public defiance. "He's making a spectacle," John fumed to Mike over the phone. "Dragging our name through the mud." Mike urged caution. "Times are changing, John. Support him or lose him." But John couldn't let go. He confronted Ezra during a tense phone call. "You're protesting now?" "In my town." Ezra stood firm. "It's for equality, Dad. Something you should understand as a cop." The call ended in shouts, the divide reopening. David, sensing Ezra's turmoil, suggested therapy. "We both need it," he said. They started couples counseling, where Ezra unpacked years of suppressed identity. "I love my dad, but his approval feels like a cage," Ezra confessed. The therapist nodded. Boundaries are key, but as sessions progressed, cracks appeared in their relationship. David wanted to move forward, perhaps get engaged, while Ezra hesitated, haunted by family ties. Back home, John grappled with isolation. Friends distanced themselves as rumors spread, some supportive, others condemning. At work, a colleague outed his own son, sharing stories of acceptance. "It gets better," he said. John listened, conflicted. That night, he attended a PFLAG meeting anonymously, sitting in the back as parents shared struggles. One story mirrored his. A cop father who disowned his son, only to regret it later. Tears stung John's eyes. Was this his future? Emboldened, John reached out to Ezra, proposing a neutral meeting. They chose a park in Elmwood, the same where Ezra had played as a kid. Sitting on a bench, John opened up. "I went to a meeting, heard stories." Ezra's eyes widened. "Really?" John nodded. "I'm scared, son. Of losing you, of what people think." Ezra softened. "I'm scared too, but hiding hurts more." For a while, progress seemed possible. John invited David over for dinner, an awkward affair filled with small talk. "Tell me about your family," John asked. David shared warmly, easing the tension. But beneath the surface, John's doubts lingered. When a precinct buddy joked about queers, John laughed uneasily, later regretting it. The real betrayal came from an unexpected source. Sarah, Ezra's friend, confided in John about Ezra's past struggles. Depression, self-doubt, hoping to bridge the gap. But John twisted it, confronting Ezra. "This is why you're confused. You need help." Ezra felt violated. "You had no right." The accusation led to a blowout, Ezra accusing John of manipulation. Hurt, Ezra distanced himself further, throwing himself into activism. He organized a rally against a proposed bill limiting LGBTQ+ rights in schools. David supported him, but warned, "Don't let anger consume you." The rally drew crowds, including counter-protesters. Chaos ensued when a fight broke out, and Ezra was arrested for disorderly conduct. John got the call at midnight. Racing to the station, he found Ezra in a holding cell, bruised but defiant. "What were you thinking?" John demanded. Ezra glared. "Standing up for myself. Something you taught me." John bailed him out, the drive home silent. At home, emotions erupted. "You're throwing your life away," John yelled. Ezra retorted, "No, I'm living it." The incident made headlines locally, outing Ezra publicly. John faced scrutiny at work, chiefs' concern talks, colleagues' sidelong glances. One night, overwhelmed, John confessed to Ramirez, "I don't know if I can fix this." She advised therapy for him too. As Ezra healed from the arrest, David proposed during a quiet dinner. "Marry me," he said, ring in hand. Ezra hesitated, thinking of his father. "I want to, but..." David pulled back, hurt. "But what?" "Him." The argument escalated, David accusing Ezra of prioritizing John. "Choose us or him." Torn, Ezra sought solace in solitude, wandering the city streets. He called John, voice-breaking, "I need advice." John listened as Ezra poured out his heart. "Follow your heart," John said softly, surprising himself. But the words felt hollow. His own heart was divided. The climax built when John discovered a colleague's homophobic plot, falsifying reports to target LGBTQ+ individuals. Outraged, John reported it, risking his career. "It's wrong," he told the chief. The fallout was swift. Investigations, suspensions. John became a pariah among some peers, but gained respect from others. News reached Ezra, who visited unannounced. "You did that for me?" Ezra asked. John shrugged. "For what's right." Tears flowed as they embraced, a tentative healing. But David, feeling sidelined, issued an ultimatum. "Commit to us fully." Ezra's choice loomed, a moral crossroads. He chose David, but with conditions, maintaining ties with John. The decision brought relief, but also new tensions. With the engagement announced, Ezra and David planned a small celebration, inviting select friends and family. John was included, a gesture of olive branch. He arrived bearing a bottle of wine, his smile strained but genuine. "Congratulations," he said, shaking David's hand. The evening passed in cautious harmony, toasts to love and future. But undercurrents of unease persisted. John's toast was brief, his eyes betraying inner conflict. Post-engagement, John's therapy sessions intensified. "Why resist?" the counselor probed. John admitted fears rooted in his upbringing, a military father who equated masculinity with heterosexuality. "Change feels like betrayal," he said. Progress was slow, but insights emerged. Love wasn't conditional. Ezra, meanwhile, navigated wedding plans amid societal pushback. Vendors hesitated, citing personal beliefs. Friends distanced, revealing hidden prejudices. One, a college buddy, outright refused invitation, calling it unnatural. The rejection stung, amplifying Ezra's insecurities. "Is it worth it?" he confided in David. "Yes," David affirmed, but his patience wore thin. A major blow came when John's precinct faced backlash from his whistleblowing. Protests outside the station accused him of going soft. Anonymous threats arrived, shaking John. "This is what acceptance costs," he told Ezra during a visit. Ezra empathized. "We're in this together." For the first time, solidarity bridged their gap. But betrayal struck from within. Uncle Mike, pressured by conservative circles, leaked details of Ezra's arrest to a local paper, framing it as family shame. The article exploded, painting John as a failed father. John confronted Mike. "Why?" Mike sneered. You're destroying our legacy. The fallout severed ties, leaving John isolated. Ezra read the article, fury boiling. He betrayed us, he raged to David. David urged calm. Focus on us. But Ezra couldn't. He cut contact with extended family, drawing closer to John. You're all I have, Ezra said. John nodded, guilt heavy. I'm sorry for everything. As wedding preparations advanced, David grew distant, resenting Ezra's renewed bond with John. It's always about him, David complained. Arguments multiplied, culminating in a heated fight. Maybe we're rushing, David said. Ezra recoiled. You don't want this? David paused. I do, but not like this. The strain peaked at a pre-wedding dinner with John's involvement. David snapped at John's innocent question about traditions. This isn't your world, David said. John retreated, hurt. Later, Ezra defended his father. He's trying. David exploded. And I'm not? I've been your rock. The next day, David called off the engagement. I need space, he said, packing bags. Ezra begged. Don't do this. But David left, the door closing on their future. Devastated, Ezra collapsed, the loss a gaping wound. John arrived, alerted by a frantic call. He held Ezra as he sobbed. It's my fault, Ezra whispered. John shook his head. No, son. Life's choices have costs. They talked through the night, John sharing his own losses, Maria his career stability. We endure, he said. In the aftermath, Ezra moved back home temporarily, the house a sanctuary of sorts. Father and son rebuilt, attending events together, John even joining a pride walk. For you, John said. Ezra smiled. For us. But scars remained. David reached out months later, regretting his haste. I was scared, he admitted. Ezra, stronger now, forgave but didn't reconcile. We've both changed. John's career rebounded. His stand against discrimination earned promotions. Yet personal tolls lingered, lost friends, family rifts. He reflected on his journey, from rejection to ally. As Ezra ventured into new relationships, cautious but hopeful, the family dynamic shifted. John met potential partners, offering awkward but sincere support. As long as you're happy, he said. Years passed in a blur of incremental healing, but the echoes of that initial shock never fully faded. Ezra, now 25, had built a career in social work, advocating for LGBTQ+ youth in Rochester's underserved communities. His days were filled with stories that mirrored his own. Teens hiding from judgmental parents, facing bullying, grappling with self-acceptance. Each case reminded him of the price he'd paid, but also the strength he'd gained. John, retired from the force after a decorated career, volunteered at the same center, his presence a quiet testament to transformation. Their relationship had evolved into something profound, forged in the fires of conflict. Dinners were regular, conversations delving into politics, memories, and dreams. I'm proud of you, John said one evening over steak, his voice thick with emotion. Ezra met his gaze. And I'm proud of you, Dad, for changing. John nodded, but shadows lingered in his eyes. The friends lost, the family fractured. David had moved on, marrying someone else in a lavish ceremony Ezra learned about through mutual friends. The news stung, a reminder of what could have been. Do you regret? John asked gently when Ezra confided. Ezra pondered. No. It led me here. But in quiet moments, doubt whispered. Had his indecision driven David away? Society's pressures hadn't vanished. Elmwood had progressed. Pride flags in windows, inclusive policies, but pockets of resistance remained. John faced occasional barbs from old colleagues, labeling him a sellout. He shrugged them off, but each jab chipped at his resolve. Was it worth it? He wondered aloud to his therapist, who reminded him, change starts with one person. Ezra's new partner, Ryan, entered the picture organically, a fellow advocate with a gentle spirit. John welcomed him warmly, sharing stories of Ezra's childhood over beer. Take care of him, John said privately to Ryan. Ryan smiled. I will. The approval meant everything to Ezra, a far cry from the past.
Yet, mâu thuẫn đạo đức persist.
When a bill restricting transgender rights hit the legislature, Ezra rallied against it, John by his side. Counter-protesters hurled slurs, one recognizing John. Traitor! They shouted. John stood firm, but later confessed, "It hurts." Ezra hugged him. "You're a hero." The ultimate test came when cousin Lisa, estranged since the barbecue, reached out in crisis. Her son had come out, and she was lost. "Help me," she pleaded. John and Ezra guided her, sharing their journey. Reconciliation bloomed, but not without cost. Admitting past wrongs, forgiving betrayals. As the story wound toward closure, Ezra reflected on the chain of events. The kiss, the ultimatum, the arrest, the broken engagement. Each a domino falling, leading to awakening. "We've paid dearly," he told John during a walk in the park where they'd reconciled. John agreed. "But look at us now." The narrative's heart lay in the human cost. The emotional scars, shattered illusions, rebuilt lives. Characters emerged changed. Ezra, resilient and authentic. John, humbled and empathetic. David, a casualty of timing. In the end, peace settled, but questions lingered. Father and son sat on the porch, watching the sunset, a symbol of endings and beginnings. "Do you think we did right?" Ezra asked. John paused. "We did what we could." The tale closed not with tidy resolution, but with lingering ambiguity, inviting reflection on the complexities of love, identity, and family. Was forcing acceptance through ultimatums ever justified, or does true change only come from within?